two brand-name Democrats like Andrew Cuomo and Joe Manchin in trouble? Is the Tea Party's primary power holding strong with just 41 days to go in the general election this midterm? Joan Walsh is editor-in-chief of Salon.com, and Sam Stein covers politics for the HuffingtonPost.com. Joan, it's great to have you on because maybe it's time for a little cheerleading for some good Democrats here. I don't know. But Andrew Cuomo is clean as a whistle. He's been a spectacular attorney general. He was great at HUD. His father was very popular, though he stayed in office too long. I don't understand why how can he be this close to somebody who is a nothing, Palladino?
I'm not worried about this one, Chris. I don't think anybody needs to worry about this.
A negative nothing, I think it's fair to say.
A negative nothing. You know, there's a couple things. Obviously, the poll left out Lazio. It may have oversampled Republican voters slightly, not that much. And I think there is, there's a newness factor. Look, Lazio was a tired candidate. Nobody was excited about him. Palladino seems, I don't know, fresh, maybe.
No, I don't think that's the right word.
The pornographic and racist emails are kind of exciting. No, I don't know.
Fresh doesn't work for me with Palladino. Your thoughts, though. It's nice to hear you use fresh new words about a guy who doesn't meet. I say new, rather. In other words, he requires more probing and investigation between now and election day.
And he'll get it.
Okay, your thoughts, Steve?
Sam, well, I think, I think Joan's right on those fronts. I think there's another element to it, sort of a macro element, which is voters don't really like a coronation. They don't like to be told that the election's over before it starts.
So they vote for the other guy?
Well, no, they consider the other guy. They dabble with the other guy. And in both these cases, Andrew Cuomo and Joe Manchin, we basically were told that these were obvious wins for Democrats.
Let's go to Manchin. Manchin's a very popular governor in West Virginia, a coal state, a culturally conservative state, pro-gun, right? Yeah. Culturally conservative in many ways. Now, let's go to this. Could it be that a lot of states have historically elected Democrats to run their governments?
Yes.
But don't trust them in Washington?
And the feds, yeah.
Could that be Manchin's problem?
I think that might be the problem. You look at these polls, you dig deeper into it. He has a 59% approval rating in the state. That's a remarkably high. As governor.
So why not senator?
So the question is why, the question that you raise rightly is why does he not translate that into a federal office? I don't know. But perhaps you're right that the trend is that people trust you to handle local politics when you're a Democrat, but when you send you to Washington, they're worried that the spending's out of control and they think you're fiscally responsible.
Let's go to. There's also a lot of hot issues for West Virginia, coal especially.
Oh, exactly.
Here's Christine O'Donnell on Fox News with Sean Hannity last night. Well, that's bringing coal to Newcastle. Let's listen.
I'm not going to do any more national media because this is my focus. Delaware is my focus, and the local media is my focus. And it's frustrating because I've let the local media know they're my priority, but our phones are ringing off the hook that they can't get to me. So it's actually become an interference with the campaign.
Well, there's a confusion there, Joan. I'm stuttering with confusion. She says she doesn't like the national media, and she's telling it to Sean Hannity. What's he? Is he Mr. Local Yokel now all of a sudden?
Listen, it's insulting to Delaware reporters. She's not going to like Delaware media any better. Sharon Angle tried this strategy. She doesn't really like local Nevada media better. People are going to ask questions. She's an embarrassment. I don't think anybody has to worry about that. I think, I'm watching our friend Bill Maher say he's going to be releasing more of this great stuff from the 80s. And, Chris, I don't regret the 80s. She regrets the 80s. She says everybody regrets the 80s. I mean,
what was wrong? I think the 80s were about making money and Ronald Reagan and gold rush times. And what was so wild about you're a young guy, but I say, but what's
I was born in the 80s.
Well, what's this about the 80s being so wild and loopy? But I think my hunch, it's not that she's too conservative. The country's getting conservative in many ways this cycle. It's the witchcraft stuff. I think there are deal breakers.
Sure. I mean, the irony here is that she made her career what was before now
talking about witchcraft
talking on national TV. And look, Sharon Angle perfected this. She doesn't take any national questions, and as you pointed out, she raised a ton of money by going on conservative outlets and talking about her website. She raised $236,000 just from going on Rush Limbaugh.
You mean if a rally asks her on tomorrow night, she won't go?
Oh, of course she'll go.
Yeah, let's take a look at Murkowski. This is a fascinating race. Alaska is a small state, but it's big enough for 3 candidates.
Right.
Lisa Murkowski running again as a write-in candidate, which is doable. It's a small state. Let's listen to her strategy on the Daily Show, on the Daily Rundown, actually.
Well, I would just remind my colleagues back there in Washington that what I'm doing is really all about Alaska. 85% of the people, the electorate, did not participate in selecting the two nominees going forward. The Democrat, Scott McAdams, nice guy, but really unelectable. Joe Miller represents some views that here in Alaska most people feel are outside of the mainstream. I have been asked by thousands of Alaskans to step up, to stay in, to stand up for Alaska, and that's where I am.
Joan, am I missing something? But this strategy didn't work for Christie down in Florida. It didn't work earlier for Arlen Specter. This escape route, that if you can't pass muster with the far right, admittedly a small group of people, but if you lose to them, can you go hide in the general and hope to win with Democrats? That's what she's talking about there. She's trying to poach some votes for McAdams there, it seems like.
It seems like it, and I don't think that's going to work. It's just a question of whether Republicans didn't know what they're getting. I mean, come on, this one is so much fun because it's a grudge match between Murkowski and Palin. You know, Palin's old campaign manager went to run Murkowski's campaign. Palin jumped in for Miller. You know, it's just get the popcorn. Okay. This is a great one.
Well, speaking of, here's the part that you don't want. This is the dirty part of life. This is what we're going to do to show to Democratic and middle-of-the-road voters and reasonable Republican voters what your choices are in this election. Here's a Republican candidate running in North Carolina. It's a new ad. Let's listen. I hate it, but this is what people are doing. Let's listen.
After the Muslims conquered Jerusalem and Cordoba and Constantinople, they built victory mosques. And now they want to build a mosque by ground zero. Where does Bob Etheridge stand? He won't say, won't speak out, won't take a stand.
The terrorists haven't won, and we should tell them in plain English, no, there will never be a mosque at ground zero. I'm Renee Elmers, and I approve this ad.
How can you get that low?
It is pretty much the most.
It is ethnic politics. There is no. It's going back to the 7th century of when Muhammad was around and acting like they're coming this way in hordes with flashing scimitars,
the interchange,
whirling dervishes to come get us now, and you got to stop them at the gates in North Carolina.
In that ad, the word terrorist and Muslim are interchangeable. In that ad, it is shallow, it is pathetic, it is awful, and you know this is what my theory is, that this is what's replacing the sort of traditional cultural social.
This was used against the Irish, against the Jews, against the blacks. This is ethnic prejudice. It's nothing more. It's terrible. It's un-American.
Not to mention that Congress has nothing to do with this issue.
It's terrible. And you must be an idiot to vote for people to show this stuff to you. A fool.